The phone buzzed at 4:47 a.m., then again and again. David Chen rolled over, squinting at the screen through sleep-heavy eyes. Bank notifications. 7 of them. His heart lurched as he opened the first one. Withdrawal, $8,500. Withdrawal, $12,300. Withdrawal, $15,000. He sat bolt upright, ice flooding his veins. The bedroom was empty. Rachel's side of the bed was cold, untouched. Her closet door hung open, half the clothes gone. The expensive luggage set they'd received as a wedding gift 2 years ago had vanished. His hands trembled as he opened the banking app. Their joint account balance stared back at him in cruel, absolute terms. $0. The savings they'd built over 3 years of marriage, the emergency fund, the money his grandmother had gifted them. Everything wiped out in a single night. A text message appeared at the top of his screen. Rachel, I deserve better than what you've given me. Don't try to find me. I've moved on with someone who actually appreciates me. David stared at the words until they blurred. Someone who appreciates her? His mind raced through the past months. The late nights she claimed were work events, the new expensive clothes, the way she'd grown distant in bed, turning away from his touch with excuses of headaches and exhaustion. There had been signs. God, there had been so many signs. He remembered 3 weeks ago finding her texting someone at 2 a.m. in the bathroom. She'd claimed it was her friend Jennifer having a crisis. He believed her, wanted to believe her. Last month, she'd insisted on keeping her phone face down at dinner, something she'd never done before. When he'd reached for it playfully, she'd snatched it away with an intensity that had shocked them both. Just Instagram stuff, she'd laughed nervously. You know how embarrassing my search history is. Then there was Connor Mitchell, the old friend from college who'd moved back to town 6 months ago. Rachel had been so excited to reconnect with him, insisted they all grab dinner together. David had liked Connor initially. Charming, friendly, full of stories about their university days together. But then Rachel started mentioning him constantly. Connor thought this. Connor said that. Connor recommended this restaurant. David's stomach churned as puzzle pieces clicked into place. The Saturday afternoon, she claimed she was meeting Jennifer for coffee, but came home smelling like men's cologne. The credit card charges at restaurants across town on days she said she was working late. The new lingerie he'd found in her drawer that she'd never worn for him. He pulled up her location on his phone. They'd shared access a year ago after she'd gotten worried about his late-night drives home from client meetings. The app showed her location, the Grandview luxury apartments downtown. The same complex Connor had mentioned renting in. His hands clenched into fists. She'd taken everything and run straight to another man's arms. David sat at his kitchen table as dawn broke, laptop open, coffee growing cold beside him. But he wasn't crying. He wasn't panicking. He was thinking. Because Rachel had made a critical miscalculation. 3 months ago, his younger sister Amy had visited for Thanksgiving. She'd pulled him aside after dinner, her expression troubled. David, I saw Rachel having lunch with some guy downtown. They were really close, holding hands across the table. I thought you should know. He defended Rachel immediately. That's probably Connor, her old college friend. They've been catching up. But Amy's concerned expression had planted a seed of doubt. That night, he'd done something he wasn't proud of. He'd checked Rachel's phone while she showered. The messages with Connor had been deleted, but he'd seen the notification previews piling up before she cleared them. Pet names, heart emojis, plans for our future together. His world had tilted on its axis. But David was a financial analyst. His job was managing risk, planning for contingencies, protecting assets. So instead of confronting her immediately, potentially driving her underground, he'd begun quietly protecting himself. First, he'd redirected his business consulting income to a separate account Rachel didn't know existed. The joint account received only his base salary from his main job, enough to cover bills and maintain normalcy. His side business, which generated an additional $8,000 monthly, flowed elsewhere. Second, he documented everything. Screenshots of suspicious charges, photos of her location history, records of late-night absences. He'd even hired a private investigator for 2 weeks, gathering irrefutable evidence of her meetings with Connor. Third, he consulted with Margaret Reeves, the best divorce attorney in the state, laying groundwork for what he'd hoped he'd never need. Now, watching the sun rise over a city that felt foreign and hostile, he was grateful for that paranoia. David opened his secure files and began making calls. Margaret? It's David Chen. She made her move. I need you to file papers this morning. Next, he called his bank. I need to report unauthorized withdrawals from a joint account. My wife has removed funds that were primarily from my income without my knowledge or consent. Yes, I'll hold. By 9 a.m., he'd frozen all joint credit cards. By 10 a.m., divorce papers were being prepared. By noon, he'd filed a police report for investigation of the withdrawals. Technically legal from a joint account, but the bank flagged the unusual activity, especially given his fraud claim. His phone rang. Rachel's mother, Patricia. David, honey, what's going on? Rachel called me crying, saying you've locked her out of everything. He'd always liked Patricia. She deserved the truth. Patricia, Rachel emptied our entire joint account overnight, over $35,000, and left me a text saying she's moved on with another man. She's at Connor Mitchell's apartment right now. I'm protecting myself legally. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, oh my God, oh David, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. That boy Connor? Yes, ma'am. I'll call you back. David allowed himself a grim smile. Rachel's family adored him. Her father had specifically told him he was the best thing that ever happened to their daughter. That support system she'd counted on, it was crumbling. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. Papers filed. She'll be served this afternoon at the address you provided. Perfect. Connor Mitchell's apartment wasn't what Rachel had imagined during those stolen afternoons in hotel rooms, where they talked about the life they'd build together. She'd pictured modern sophistication, evidence of the success he'd hinted at. Instead, she found cramped rooms with furniture that looked salvaged from college, dishes piled in the sink, and a persistent smell of old takeout. It's temporary, Connor had assured her when she'd arrived at 3 a.m. with her hastily packed suitcases. I've got deals in the works, babe. Big deals. We just need to get through this transition period. That was 4 days ago. Now, sitting on his sagging couch while he played video games, Rachel checked her phone obsessively. The banking app showed an error message when she tried to access the joint account. Her credit cards were declined. Worse, there was an email from a law firm. Notice of legal separation and divorce proceedings. Her stomach dropped. David was actually doing this. She'd expected him to beg, to plead for her to come back. Instead, he was treating this like a business transaction. Connor, I need you to look at something, she said, her voice tight. He didn't look up from his game. In a minute, babe, I'm in the middle of a raid. Connor. She grabbed the controller from his hands. This is serious. David's filed for divorce, and something's wrong with our bank account. Connor finally focused on her, irritation flickering across his face. What do you mean wrong? It's locked or something, and my credit cards aren't working. He shrugged. So use the money you transferred. Rachel bit her lip. The $35,000 was already dwindling. She'd put down first and last month's rent on a luxury apartment downtown, $4,800. She'd gone shopping, buying new clothes for her new life, $3,200. There were deposits, fees, the expensive dinner she treated Connor to at that steakhouse he loved, $400. And Connor had needed help with his car payment, $650, and his credit card minimum, $300, and groceries, $500. We've spent almost $10,000 already, she admitted quietly. Connor's expression darkened. We? Babe, that's your money. I'm between opportunities right now. I thought you understood that. Between opportunities. That was his phrase for unemployed. Rachel had known this technically, but he painted such a vivid picture of the consultancy he was launching, the connections he had, the contracts that were about to come through. It was only temporary, he'd insisted. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Mrs. Chen? This is Detective Rodriguez with the Financial Crimes Unit. I need to speak with you about some recent banking activity. Can you come to the station? Rachel's blood turned to ice. Financial crimes? What? Large, unauthorized withdrawals from an account. Your husband has filed a report claiming fraud. It's standard procedure, but we need your statement. I'm his wife. It's our joint account. How can it be unauthorized? That's what we need to clarify. Can you come in this afternoon, say 3 p.m.? After she hung up, Connor was staring at her. Cops! Rachel, what the hell did you do? It's our money. We're married. He can't. You said he made most of the money, though, right? Like, significantly most? Rachel's hands were shaking. Yes, David made about 70% of their household income. But they were married. That made it community property, didn't it? Except David was smart. Methodical. If he was claiming fraud, he had a reason. The apartment building manager knocked on the door. Mr. Mitchell, I need to speak with you about next month's rent. Connor looked at Rachel meaningfully. That's when the full reality hit her. She'd left security for chaos, stability for promises, a husband who adored her for a man who needed her money. Rachel sat across from Detective Rodriguez in a sterile interrogation room. Her confidence from days ago completely evaporated. The detective was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes that saw entirely too much. Mrs. Chen, walk me through the withdrawals on the night of February 19th. Rachel's lawyer, a overpriced attorney she could barely afford, spoke up. My client exercised her legal right to access a joint marital account. Except, Detective Rodriguez slid papers across the table. Mr. Chen's financial records show he deposited $32,000 of the $35,000 in that account from his personal income over the past 3 months. Mrs. Chen deposited approximately $3,000. When one party removes funds that are substantially the other party's earnings, especially in the context of abandoning the marriage, it enters a gray area legally. Rachel's voice came out small. But we're married. Yes, which is why this is a civil matter more than criminal. However, the bank has flagged the transaction for investigation, and it could complicate your divorce proceedings significantly, especially since, she consulted her notes, you're now residing with a Connor Mitchell, with whom you were having an extramarital affair? Heat flooded Rachel's face. How did you... Your husband provided evidence, quite a lot of it, actually. He's very thorough. Detective Rodriguez's expression held a hint of respect. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be straight with you. Your husband is building an airtight case. The affair, the financial misconduct, the abandonment. You're not going to come out of this divorce well. After the police station, Rachel returned to Connor's apartment to find him pacing, phone pressed to his ear. No, Mom, I don't need money. I'm fine. Rachel's helping out. He spotted her and quickly ended the call. Your mom? Rachel asked. She worries. Look, babe, we need to talk about the rent situation. The landlord here is being a dick about next month, and the place you put deposits on downtown. What about it? Connor couldn't meet her eyes. The leasing office called. They ran a background check and credit verification. They're rejecting the application. You'll lose the deposits. Rachel sank onto the couch. $4,800 just gone. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Rachel Marie Thompson, what on earth have you done? Her mother's voice was cold steel. Mom, let me explain. I spoke with David, that sweet boy you married who worked overtime to help pay off my medical bills last year, who treated you like a queen. You cheated on him, emptied your bank account, and ran off with that Connor boy? It's not that simple. David was always working, always busy, never made time for us. He was building a future for both of you, and Connor Mitchell? Her mother's laugh was bitter. Honey, I know his mother from church. That boy hasn't held a steady job in 3 years. He's been living off credit cards and his parents' money. Did he tell you about the bankruptcy he filed last year? Rachel's vision swam. What? He's $80,000 in debt, Rachel. What exactly do you think you've gotten yourself into? After her mother hung up on her, Rachel confronted Connor. Bankruptcy? $80,000 in debt? Connor's jaw tightened. I was going to tell you, it's not a big deal. I'm rebuilding. That's what people do. You said you had consulting deals coming through. I do. They're just taking longer than expected. Babe, this is why I need you to be patient. Support me through this transition. Support you? Connor, I've spent almost $15,000 in 5 days. The apartment fell through. The police are investigating me. My family won't speak to me. What exactly are you bringing to this relationship? His expression hardened into something ugly. What am I bringing? I'm the one who appreciated you when your husband was too busy. I'm the one who made you feel desired again. Don't forget, you came to me. Because you told me you loved me, that we build a life together. And we will, once you stop panicking about money. Jesus, Rachel, you act like $35,000 is nothing. There's plenty left. But there wasn't. Rachel checked her phone. After the deposits, the shopping, Connor's loans, the lawyer consultation, and daily expenses in an expensive city without income, she had $18,000 left. And it was bleeding fast. Her phone rang again. David. Her heart hammered as she answered. David. The divorce papers have been served. My lawyer will be in contact about asset division. I thought you should know that I'll be seeking reimbursement for the funds you took, given that they were primarily my earnings. I'm also requesting that you cover your own legal fees, given the circumstances of your departure. His voice was calm, professional, like she was a client, not his wife of 2 years. David, please, can we talk about this? I made a mistake. No, Rachel. You made a choice, repeatedly, for months. I hope it was worth it. He hung up. Rachel looked around Connor's cramped apartment at the man who was already back on his video game and realized with crushing clarity she'd traded everything for nothing. 3 months later, David stood in his new downtown loft, 1,500 square feet of modern luxury with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The Caldwell Industries contract he'd been negotiating for 6 months had finalized the week after Rachel left, $300,000 annually for 3 years, plus equity. His consulting business was booming. The life he'd imagined building with Rachel was happening, just without her. His phone buzzed. Margaret, his attorney. Final divorce decree signed by the judge. It's official. Congratulations on your freedom. The settlement had been brutal for Rachel. The evidence David provided, documented proof of the affair, financial records showing his contributions versus hers, witness testimony, had eviscerated any sympathy the mediator might have had. She'd been ordered to repay $22,000 of the money she'd taken. Her lawyer's fees were her responsibility. She received nothing from David's business assets, which he'd legally separated before her departure. David poured himself an expensive scotch, a victory indulgence, and opened his laptop to check personal emails. There, sitting in his inbox like a ghost, was a message from Rachel. Subject: Please read this. His finger hovered over delete, but curiosity won. David, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you probably hate me, and you should. I've spent 3 months watching my life fall apart and realizing that I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. Connor and I lasted 5 weeks. Once my money ran out, he moved on to someone else, some woman he'd been messaging the whole time. I'm living in a studio apartment I can barely afford, working double shifts as a server to pay back the settlement. My family barely speaks to me. My friends sided with you, rightfully so. I think about you every day, about our life together, about how you'd bring me coffee in bed every Sunday morning, how you'd listen to me talk about my day even after your own exhausting ones, how you'd hold me when I was anxious about work. You were everything a partner should be, and I convinced myself it wasn't enough because I was bored, because Connor made me feel exciting and spontaneous. Turns out, exciting and spontaneous don't pay the bills or hold you when you're crying or show up when things get hard. I'm not asking you to take me back. I know that ship has sailed. I'm not even asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you were right. I left with nothing, because nothing is exactly what I got. I hope you're happy. You deserve it more than anyone. Rachel? David read the message twice, then closed his laptop. A year ago, this email would have destroyed him. 6 months ago, it might have given him satisfaction. Now it just made him tired. Rachel had made her choices, and he'd made his. The life they'd planned together had transformed into the life he was building alone. And honestly, it was better than he'd imagined. His phone rang. Emily, a colleague from his consulting firm he'd been seeing for the past month. Nothing serious yet, but there was potential. She was smart, driven, and most importantly, she valued loyalty. "Hey, still on for dinner tonight?" she asked, warmth in her voice. "Absolutely. That new Italian place downtown?" "Perfect. See you at 7. David looked around his loft, at the life he'd reconstructed from the ashes of his marriage. Rachel had thought she was draining him dry, leaving him broken and desperate. She'd gambled everything on a man who'd promised her the world, but delivered only disappointment. Meanwhile, David had quietly prepared, planned, and protected himself. When she'd pulled the trigger, he'd been ready. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Amy. "Heard the divorce is final. Proud of you, big brother. You handled this with class. Dinner this weekend to celebrate?" He smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. My treat." Rachel's email sat in his inbox, undeleted but unanswered. There was nothing left to say. She'd wanted better, wanted more than what they had built together. She'd gotten exactly what she'd asked for, a life without him. David raised his glass to the window, to the city lights stretching out before him, to the future that was his alone to build. "To new beginnings," he said quietly. And somewhere across town, in a cramped studio apartment, Rachel stared at her phone, waiting for a response that would never come, learning the hardest lesson of her life. That some mistakes can't be undone, and some losses can't be recovered. She thought she was draining him. Instead, she'd only drained herself. The end.